Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News for this Friday, the 4th day of October, 2024. And as the world waits for Israel's response to Iran, we have three very important headlines that are setting the stage for probably something that will happen very soon, and it will be very big. Here's our headlines. Israel faces moment of truth versus Iran, and they certainly do. Khamenei says Iran won't back down, Israel won't last long, and he hails the October 7th massacre. The man is evil. And finally, our third story, satellite imagery shows Iranian oil tankers at country's major terminals disappearing amidst fears of an Israel counterattack. So it seemingly will happen very soon. Right now, it's still, well, actually, it's the holiday is over. Rosh Hashanah, we're in the Shabbat, the Sabbath now in Israel, and it ends less than 24 hours from now. So basically, any time after that, we assume something might happen. We'll just keep an eye on things. One note that you should be aware of, housekeeping note, we'll probably be broadcasting a little bit later tomorrow morning. And the reason being that we're having a power outage that's from midnight to 7 a.m. They're doing some work on the electrical grid near our house. And so we're warned about that. So we won't be able to probably have any power till 7 a.m. tomorrow. And 7 a.m. is like lunchtime for me. As you know, I'm up at 3 to 4 every morning, getting everything ready and recording. So we'll get there eventually. But just if you don't see anything at 6 a.m. like usual or 5 a.m. sometimes, don't worry. We're still here. We're just waiting for the power to come back on. Okay. All right. Let's look at these headlines because they are huge and they are something else. Number one, Israel faces moment of truth versus Iran. This is from the website Virtual Jerusalem. With strong domestic pressure and U.S. calls for restraint, Netanyahu and security chiefs contemplate a decisive and unprecedented opportunity to strike against Iran's nuclear threat and energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, the ground invasion of Lebanon meets resistance, and intense Israeli Air Force air attacks on Hezbollah's replacement leadership continue. All right. Here's the story. It kind of summarizes where we're at right now, which we need to remember this as we're in prayer and as we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. On October 1st, 2024, Israel was struck by its most significant missile attack in years, as Iran launched 181 ballistic missiles aimed at military installations across the country. This aggressive move, the largest ever launched by Iran directly against Israel, coincided with Hezbollah's intensifying its rocket fire from southern Lebanon, further straining Israel's northern defenses. Now, Israel not only faces the question of how to retaliate, but also whether to seize the moment to confront Iran's nuclear ambitions and possibly strike its energy infrastructure, which could cripple Iran's economy. While the U.S. has urged restraint, many within Israel see this moment as at a critical juncture. In other words, this is it, a chance to deal a crippling blow to both Iran's military and economic capabilities. Our next heading here under this article is the Iranian missile assault. On October 1st, their missile barrage, part of what they called Operation True Promise 2, targeted major military bases, including Nevatim and Tel Nof air bases, along with intelligence sites near Tel Aviv. Although Israel's defense system intercepted most of the missiles, several broke through, damaging military infrastructure and civilian areas. In fact, there's some satellite pictures finally. They did hit the bases there, but fortunately nothing of any real importance was destroyed, and that they're fortunate. But there were some missiles that got through. One person, a Palestinian in the West Bank, was killed, and several others were injured as missiles landed near a school in Gedera and homes near Hod HaSharon. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately condemned the attack, calling it a big mistake by Iran. Iran has crossed a red line, he said, warning that Tehran would face severe consequences. In response, Israel launched airstrikes targeting Iranian military infrastructure in Syria with a focus on logistical hubs connected to the missile attacks. Then we have Hezbollah's escalation. Simultaneously, Hezbollah, Iran's main proxy in Lebanon, launched hundreds of rockets at northern Israel. Towns like Kiryat Shmona and Metula were the hardest hit. They're on the right on the border, by the way, between Israel and Lebanon, way up in northern Israel. They're the hardest hit, forcing civilians to take shelter. Israel's northern defense systems were stretched with widespread disruption in civilian life. The Israeli Air Force responded by targeting Hezbollah's rocket launching sites and command centers in southern Lebanon. While this has temporarily blunted Hezbollah's capabilities, the threat of a broader conflict remains. we are prepared for a significant escalation, said ID Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. If Hezbollah continues, they will be dismantled. Now, again, the U.S. comes in and urging moderation, as we've seen. The lame duck Biden administration has reaffirmed its support for Israel, but has emphasized the need for restraint to prevent the situation from spiraling into a full-scale regional war. Lame duck President Biden stated that the U.S. is discussing potential military responses, including whether Israel should strike Iran's nuclear infrastructure. However, he stressed the importance of measured action, warning against rash decisions that could escalate the conflict further. We're discussing all options, but we must avoid any action that could spiral out of control, Biden noted. Well, let's just forget about what he said. Now, this next paragraph's of interest. Vice President Kamala Harris echoed these sentiments, calling Iran a destabilizing and dangerous force, while also emphasizing the U.S.'s unwavering support for Israel. Now, listen to this. Harris highlighted the need to consider long-term consequences of any military response. In other words, Israel, you got to think of the long-term consequences. Well, they are. That's probably why they will attack. The U.S. wants to see Israel kick the can down the road, where sooner or later Iran will get a nuclear weapon, and Israel will be the first country destroyed if that takes place. Now, we know it's not going to happen because the Bible tells us Israel will survive until the time of the end. But the fact that she said that is very worrisome, because this indicates what we've known from the beginning, her anti-Semitism, her lack of interest in Israel, and given the chance, if she ever got to the leadership position, God help the USA and God help Israel. Anyway, the U.S. has already deployed 2 Navy destroyers, the USS Cole and the USS Bukhali, to assist Israel and defend against further missile attacks. Internal pressure in Israel, a golden opportunity to address Iran's nuclear energy threats. Now, while the U.S. leaders urge caution, internal pressure is mounting within Israel to seize the moment. Many in Israel's defense and political circles believe this is the golden opportunity to not only neutralize Iran's nuclear capabilities, but also to strike at its energy infrastructure, which is a vital component of Iran's economy. The prospect of crippling Iran's energy sector, especially its oil fields and refineries, has been raised as a serious option. Iran's economy relies heavily on oil exports, and hitting these assets could significantly weaken Tehran's ability to fund its military and its regional proxies like Hezbollah. Military analysts argue that a decisive strike on Iran's energy infrastructure, in conjunction with targeting its nuclear program, would send a clear message to Tehran while severely limiting its future capabilities. Now, here's the key. Iran's lifeline is its energy sector, and by hitting it, Israel can not only damage their economy, but also limit their military operations for years, said one Israeli defense official. Well, this last line is the key to the entire story. Iran's military could be set back for years, and it seems inevitable this is what Israel must do, and they really don't have any other choice. Now, let's look for some sort of massive attack very soon. That's what we assume is going to happen. Now, in contrast to this, listen to this headline. This is sickening. This is the leader of Iran, Khamenei, and he decided first time in 5 years to make some type of sermon. Here's what he said. Iran won't back down. Israel won't last long. And he hails the October 7th massacre. The supreme leader, gun in hand at sermon, claims Israel will never defeat Hamas, well, they already have, and Hezbollah, and they're pretty much getting done with that. After terror chiefs killed, he called the missile attack minimum punishment for Zionist crimes. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei delivered a rare Friday sermon defending this week's missile attack on Israel that deepened fears of a regional war, while praising the logical and legal Hamas-led October 7th invasion and massacre in southern Israel that sparked the war in Gaza and fueled violence throughout the Middle East. Notice he said it logical and legal. That was the invasion that happened almost a year ago. This is what this evil man says. Speaking in front of tens of thousands at a mosque in the capital city of Tehran, Khamenei said the Iran-backed armed groups in the Middle East will not back down, even after Israel recently killed a spate of their terrorist leaders. In his first public sermon in nearly 5 years, Khamenei spoke in Arabic to discuss fighting against Israel by the Iran-aligned axis of resistance, including Lebanon's Hezbollah and the Palestinian terror group Hamas. The resistance in the region will not back down with these martyrdoms, and we will win, Khamenei told the crowd of the Imam Khomeini Grand Musalla Mosque, where supporters carried portraits of slain Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. Israel will never defeat Hamas and Hezbollah, he declared. Well, they already have pretty much. And anyway, he hailed the terror group's fierce defense against Israeli forces over the past year, referring to Hamas's brutal October 7th onslaught against Israel and subsequent solidarity attacks by Hezbollah, Yemeni Houthi rebels, and militia groups in Iraq and Syria. The Tehran-backed terrorists were engaged, he said, in logical and legitimate action against Israel. He claimed no one has the right to criticize them. He claims Tuesday's missile barrage, when most of Israel's populace sent their populace into bomb shelters and killed a Palestinian man in the West Bank, was based on international law, Iranian law, and Islamic beliefs. He urged nations from Afghanistan to Yemen and from Iran to Gaza and Yemen to be ready to take action against the enemy and praise those who had died doing so. The speech was preceded by a commemoration ceremony for Hezbollah chief Nasrallah, who was killed by an Israeli airstrike in southern Beirut on September 27th, along with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Corps commander at the time. His sermon took place days before the first anniversary of the October 7th atrocities, and after Iran this week had fired barrages of some 200 missiles at Israel, which he said was in retaliation for the killings of Nasrallah, the Iranian leader, as well as Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July. So what our armed forces did was the minimum punishment for the crimes of usurping Zionist regime, he said, of the missile fire on their second ever direct attacks on U.S.-backed Israel. The Iranian leader charged that Israel was a malicious regime, which only kept itself standing by the injection of American support. Now, this leads us to our last headline. This is what this evil person said today. Iran is preparing for a massive Israeli attack. They know what's coming. Satellite imagery shows Iranian oil tankers at country's major terminals disappearing amidst fears of an Israeli counterattack. The National Iranian Tanker Company appears to be fearing an imminent attack by Israel. One tanker tracking firm wrote, 15 miles off Iran's northwestern coast, the Karg Island terminal handles more than 90% of the country's crude oil exports. Oil prices jumped 5% on Thursday and are headed for their best week in over a year, following comments from U.S. President Joe Biden. So Biden's comment caused the price of oil to go up. Now, basically, what you have, these empty super tankers vacated the largest oil terminal there at Karg Island yesterday, according to tracking firm Tanker Trackers. They wrote in a post on X, formerly Twitter, Thursday evening. Markets have been on edge because of this, and the satellite imagery basically captured this. On Thursdays, 2 days after Iran launched a volley of around 180 missiles at Israel, there was an empty sea around Karg Island, no ships in sight, none whatsoever. So they've all left Karg Island. Now, where they're at, I'm sure they'll be able to be found. But they are expecting some type of huge attack on their infrastructure, on their shipping, probably on their oil fields, and hopefully on their nuclear facilities too. And Israel can do it. They've showed the desire, the ability. They were held back the last time, as you recall, in April, when Biden said, just hold back, restrain yourselves. And this time, enough is enough. And this is their chance, and hopefully they will take it and take it soon. So like we said, Israel's been celebrating the New Year, Rosh Hashanah. It is now the Shabbat, the Sabbath in Israel, which will end less than 24 hours from now. Therefore, it's likely we will see the Israeli response very soon, and they will hit Iran very, very hard. Now, what happens after that is anyone's guess, but we'll be here to report it. So please continue to pray for the people of Israel, pray for this situation. And Lord, have mercy on everyone here, because this could turn out to be a gigantic mess. But Israel has to do what they have to do. They really don't have any choice. If they don't do anything now, well, it's impossible. They have to do something. They will, because they cannot let this opportunity pass by when Iran is on the ropes, and they could literally set back their military situation years and years. And they need to do that. They really do. All right, I'm Don Stewart. Thanks again for watching. And remember, again, we'll be with you tomorrow morning, but a little bit later than usual, probably because of the power outages here in the house. But we'll be back with you as soon as possible with the latest news. And until then, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless you.